1, 2, yeah. Yep. Let me hear you.
Check 1, 2, 3. Check 1,
I like it.
2.
All right,
So where did you learn how to do all this, man?
Well, so before the whole,
Well, you were the band.
yeah, I was a band guy, but I was on the road. Even in college, I did the music. Like all through high school, that was my deal, was music and playing in bands, all that sort of stuff. And honestly, from where I am, like technology hasn't changed all that much since then. Like, 'cause I keep it down. Like I could do the whole digital through the computer, but I do kind of do it old school. And then also just out of necessity, man, just kind of figure it out. Like who else is going to come over here and do it? And thank God for YouTube. So I was telling my boy, man, if there's something you love to do and you want to be good at it, if you suck, it's your own fault. There's so much instruction out there, man.
On everything.
Yeah, like if you want to learn how to play guitar, when I was growing up, you had to go get like guitar lessons from a guy, like a bearded old man down at the music store. Now you turn on your phone. It's crazy.
That's my next, after I get my doctorate, guitar.
You think? Mm-hmm. Huh. Why guitar?
In the next 10 years. I mean, the next decade.
Yeah.
In this decade of excellence coming up.
The decade of excellence. It's a lot to live up to. So you got the doctorate's on the bucket list. Guitar. Give me one more thing on the bucket list.
Book.
Yeah. Finally.
Which is the dissertation, I guess.
Yeah.
But, that'll help me launch into the book.
You have to make it friendly. It's like a friendly dissertation.
Yeah. Right at this point, it's get it done. Can we just get this thing done?
Yeah.
So, but I've been so stretched. I don't think I've ever been allowed myself to be. And I waited till, the ripe age of, 57 to start my doctoral program. So I'll be 60, a young 60.
Spring chicken.
Just getting started. I mean, Mother Teresa did get started, so she was like 75, really.
You know why? Because she was lazy. Just kidding.
Yeah. Doors just did not open for her.
Right. Yeah. All right, man. Let's kick it off. Here we go, brother. Teach Like a Rockstar podcast. Jeff Springer. Here we go. I'm ready. Your first returning guest. You.
The sequel.
Yeah. All right, Teach Like a Rockstar podcast. Jeff Springer back on the show today. And you know what? As soon as we're done here, brother, I'm hitting the road. As soon as you leave, I'm going to load up the car, head up to North Forney High School and hang out with some student leaders. Then I'm on the road. I'll be in Indiana, and then I go to New Mexico, and then all through Texas. And things get crazy for about 3.5, 4 weeks.
It's awesome.
Back to school, baby.
That's awesome.
Here we go. The big run. The run starts today. And I was hoping to feel a little bit more rested, but you know what? You can never rest for this thing.
No, it's like the first day.
Yeah.
I mean, it's this time of year. You just don't. The anticipation.
Yep. I love it. And so here's the plan. So what I do is I'll go on the road today, and then I'll either have a gig or a travel day for the next 3.5, 4 weeks, and then the day I get back, about noon. After I get back, the following day, I'll feel it and I'll be sick. And then I get sick. Like you allow yourself to finally get sick.
Yeah, because you stop.
Yeah. And so I'll get sick, and then for about a week, I'll shut it down and then get back at it every year. So weird. I wish I could prevent it. I try to prevent it. Like I tried sleeping extra. I tried taking, supplements or vitamins, and forget it. You're sick.
It's all that adrenaline.
Like, yes, I think it's what it is. Like at some point, I think it's toxic, maybe. Who knows? All right, here's what we have in common is, I was just thinking about this morning, is when you decided to leave principling and to repurpose, it was so interesting what people said to me when I decided to leave the classroom to do this. Everybody says, "Oh my God, congratulations." It's such a weird thing to say.
it's like you, they don't know what else to say.
Yeah, I think that's what it is.
I mean, congratulations on retirement. I mean, to me, I didn't even want to use that word.
Right.
And of course, you weren't retiring either. I mean, you were way young. I was just a little older. And, but I guess 34 years in education. Congratulations, you survived.
I don't know.
I don't know, but like you're gonna. I think people have in their head that they're gonna have when you do this repurposing or retiring in their the way they communicate that next journey is that they're just gonna like there's this prize at the end or something, and to me it's just taking the next step, doing the next thing.
Yeah, for me it was because the strange part is that although I love what I do now, there's not a day that goes by that I don't think about how good it was and how much I loved being a part of a school and being part of a classroom family and creating that every year and watching the metamorphosis of these kids for those 9 months, when they come in on the first day and wondering who they're going to be on the last day when they leave and watching that shift and watching that change, and watching them grow intellectually and emotionally and physically and watching them become adults. It's crazy. And to be a part of that, I miss it every day.
Yeah, people ask me, how's the transition? And I'm just honest with you. I'm still transitioning.
Yeah.
2 years later, I miss all those things you just talked about. I miss the affiliation. I think we like to be affiliated with an organization, with a team, with a family. And so now your schedule is, a little bit more autonomy. And that's good. And but I tell people all the time, I miss being the principal. I don't necessarily miss all the responsibilities of being the principal. But I miss this time of year, with the startup, the band is all of a sudden out in the parking lot and the drill teams in the commons and cheerleaders and all the sports teams are back and cross country kids are running around the school. And so you start realizing that it's time to start to renew. And that's the great thing about education is you get another chance to restart.
Yeah. I can't imagine. I always said that, like, how long is some other career? Like, how long? Because, you show up at the office on day one at 22 and you're thinking, all right, here we go for the next 40 years.
Yeah.
Nonstop.
Yeah.
But with school, brother, there's almost a parade leading up to the first day. It's a big celebration. Can't sleep the night before. And then you're going, then you have like halftime. It's a game. You have halftime at Christmas, spring break. Here comes the fourth quarter. Yeah. The 2-minute drill, last couple of weeks of school.
Yeah.
Hail Mary. There it is. We went touchdown. Yeah. Graduation. You shut it down.
Celebrate.
Yeah, celebration. There's closure. Then you do it again.
Yeah.
But I think the downside is that's why life goes by so fast.
Yeah.
I think it's probably slower if you're just grinding it out every day in some miserable cubicle.
Yeah. Quality versus quantity.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. It could be because, but I think that's why because people are so passionate and they're loving it and exciting. I think that's why it goes by so fast.
Most teachers are in education because they want to create the same experience. I think a lot of them that they had.
Yeah.
And so they are, they're just, I used to tell my students, like you just talked about, the excitement is, kids get nervous and excited about who their teachers are going to be and who's going to be in their classroom and all that kind of stuff. And teachers do the exact same thing. They want to know about the chemistry of the makeup of their classrooms and, are they going to make a difference? Is their classroom ready? Or are they going to, create that culture? I think that's what I see. I know my daughter is a teacher and she's doing all those things now. And, I think the perception is by those outside education is that teachers just go home, shut it down. And they do. They need to.
Yeah.
But I think their classroom is really always on their mind, whether they're physically there or not. And eventually, as you get into past June into July, and
Right.
start gearing up, they start thinking about and dreaming about those things, those relationships they're going to have in the fall.
Man, I think what it is, it's not that they shut it down. I think for this profession, it requires time to process everything emotionally. Like you just can't stop and start. There's got to be some closure. I mean, you just birthed, 32 kids out your classroom door after the 9-month gestation period of the school year. There's some time it takes to let that sink in and who these kids were, and the relationship and all that, because now it's over. Mm-hmm. It's an ending of a family, and there has to be some time for closure and to process it and think about it as well.
Yeah. As a high school principal, it was a bittersweet. May was bittersweet, especially when you had a group of kids. Now, I didn't have the day-to-day intimate relationships as a classroom teacher. My sphere of influence was perhaps bigger. But when you have a group of kids in your building for 4 years, and then they, every year it was like a part of you. It was like your own kids. Like anticipating that empty nest, so to speak. And of course, because it wasn't the end of the year and you're in now an empty building, symbolic of that empty nest. But just seeing the next phase of their life and being excited about that. And again, the celebration of graduation. I love graduation day, but at the same time, knowing that many of those kids, when they walk out of that arena and up the steps and out of the building, it might be the last time you ever see them.
Yep. Yeah. Like all those feelings. Oh my gosh, to prepare that kid, you drop the ball. Does he have everything you need? Which of course they don't, but they're going to acquire it along the way.
Yeah.
The whole idea of these teachers coming into the year trying to create whatever it is that they had, and those reasons that they became a teacher. For me, that there's some negative side to that as well, because oftentimes I find teachers that come into the business, and they came into the business because it was just fun, and school was easy, and school was awesome, and they loved school, and they sat in the front row, and so they went to high school and they participated, and they were on a drill team or cheerleader, and in student council, and they went to Spanish club, and they went to Chicago on the choir trip, and this is so much fun. I want to be a teacher. So they went to college, and that was easy. They come out with a degree and they go get a job, and they show up on the first day, and oh my gosh, they got 2 kids in the classroom that are like them, and the other 30, they don't even want to be there. And I think sometimes for teachers that's a really hard realization. Like what do I?
Yeah. Yeah.
No one did the homework.
Right.
I had a desk in my room. I had a bulletin board on my wall when I was growing up. I did my homework.
Right. Yeah. It's like you're looking for volunteers.
Yeah.
I mean, and yeah, why can't they have the same emotion and feelings and expectations and excitement that I had? I mean, it's like a good coach. It's like a talented player. Sometimes are not always, they find it hard to coach because they can't maybe always relate to the different factors of how hard it is for some kids to just simply be there. But I also think, don't you think some teachers get into the profession too because maybe they didn't have the best experience, and they want to make sure that they don't duplicate that.
Sure.
They want to make their kids' experience even better. Kind of like a good parent who, maybe didn't have the greatest home life and just says, "Hey, when I become a parent, I'm going to make sure that my kids, have everything they need to prepare them for life, and emotional, physical and spiritual and all that." And I think so.
Here's what's interesting about that. So like at my Teach Like a Rockstar thing, when we do a full day event, there's always a moment where we talk about that. Like, why are we here? What's the real reason that we're here for our kids? Because you could do anything. I mean, these are smart people, incredibly resourceful, incredibly high IQs of all the professions, on all this research that I have. Why teaching? Like, why these kids? And we'll find those teachers that, it was amazing and I want to provide that for my kids. What's interesting, I'll ask, who here just didn't have that experience and struggled and maybe even suffered at the hands of some really poor teaching? And every once in a while, somebody will volunteer. That's why I'm here. And there's a lot of emotion. But what's interesting is at the break, lots of them come up. They just don't want to talk about it publicly, or they'll send an email or say something on Facebook later or something. But it's fascinating that even at this age, you're like a 35-year-old adult and they don't want to talk about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, which also says that no matter how old we get, we still have a little bit of that stays with us. We carry that with us, and to acknowledge those things, those feelings and so forth, and to be able to verbalize those, I think are so important. So I think that's great that you offered that opportunity, that you asked that question, to maybe, even if they just do it through email or one-on-one, to be able to verbalize that. And because I think a lot of times maybe they've never said anything to anybody. Maybe they've never had an opportunity to say why I got into teaching. They just do. Nobody asked that question.
I think you're right. Yeah. And, especially the way we do it, because, I partner them up. That way you can't, somebody's going to hold you accountable. So we come up with the most superficial reason first. Well, why do you do this? Let's all share it. Well, I applied for this job for some bizarre reason. They hired me and they're going to pay me. So when the kids are coming, I should probably teach them something. Okay, well, why is that? And dig a little deeper. And then once you find the next deeper answer of why you do this, ask yourself again, now, why is that? And you're going to find there's an even deeper one than that. Articulate that. Ask yourself, why is that? And you're going to keep digging and digging and digging. And eventually, you're going to dig so deep that once you're going to say the answer, ask yourself, why is that? And there's no answer. That's just what it is. And that's how you know you're there. And so I'll partner them up. And so they'll have a partner that will keep saying, why is that? Well, think about it. Why is that? Is there a reason for that? And it'll force them to go deeper and deeper until there's just nothing left. And that's what it is. And when you find those people, because lots of them there was somebody there that was there for me and I want to pay it forward. And there's that handful, there was nobody there for me. And I struggled and I suffered and I know what that's like. And I never want that to happen to another kid. And what I find, those teachers are just phenomenal. And they get it. It's those teachers that are really going to, they want to deliver the content, but more than that, those are the ones that from day one understood that, hey man, I'm just going to use this content as the vehicle to teach what I really want to teach.
Yeah. The difference between teaching subject versus teaching kids.
Yeah.
And, because a lot of times we struggle. I think I struggled as a high school principal sometimes with staff members that just taught their subject. I am my subject, because they love their subject. And quite frankly, their love for their subject was contagious. But that's kind of as far as this, subject matter goes. But then what was beyond that sometimes was, a teacher that could do both could definitely knew their subject matter, but could also build relationships. Was sometimes rare.
Yep. Yeah. I think there's a place for those, but it's really important to have the flip side, where we kind of have that kind of high school professor where, instead of, using the subject to teach the kids, they really are using the kids so that they can teach their subject. But having be able to flip the switch the other way, where I can use now that I have them, now I can use my subject so I can teach these kids.
Well, have enough self-awareness and classroom awareness to know that knowledge is only going to take me so far, but they also need to know how much, I care about each one of them.
Yep.
And, these kids enter these buildings now, and their teacher or an adult in that building may be the only person that acknowledges their their value.
Yeah.
And they're alive. And that's why teaching profession has gotten so much harder, because they don't teach that in methods class. And so that's just one of those things now that just comes along with being a teacher.
Mm-hmm.
The definition of being a teacher has expanded.
It really has.
I mean, just, so because they're not getting that reinforcement at home, they're actually kind of replacing some of that's missed at home.
That and I think years ago when the change was, when that shift was happening, I think there was a lot of teachers, because it was right at the beginning of my career, I feel, where that shift was really happening, where a lot of teachers pushed back. But now what I find, there's so many teachers just relish in the opportunity that I want to be the one. I want that to be me. I know. And so for me, I just talked about this. I did a thing called the Strobel Summit. Kim Strobel, she's a professional development consultant, and she's awesome. And she did a thing online where she had 5 or 6 of us talk and Skype, and she put it out there for free PD. But that was one of the things we talked about. It was like, my recommendation for teachers is, like, you have to set it up in your mind where you're convinced that you're the only one. Like, a kid walks into the classroom, and the way I know it sounds crazy, but it's the safest thing you can do is put 100% belief in the idea. This kid has no parents. He has no church youth group. He has no coach. He has no siblings. He's got no aunt and uncle. He's got no grandpa. He's got nobody but me. And once you do that, for me, that way I'm not going to miss any of them, because they're awesome actors. I mean, those kids will make you believe that everything's great, everything's good at home. It's my life is amazing, and then after they graduate, you find out the truth. Now it's too late.
Yeah. We used to tell the teachers. I know one year our focus was that we were lifesavers, that we were literally lifesavers.
Yeah,
and I think some of the teachers had a hard time with that because they didn't see themselves in that role. But when you can get to that point where teachers see the difference that they can make in the impact on a day-to-day basis. I mean, they spend more time with the kids, the students, especially at the lower level, than parents do. And so beyond the house, inside that classroom, is opportunity to be a lifesaver.
Right. I think some of the pushback is, I'm here to teach them the material. I'm a teacher. I don't want to be. But I guess I'm old fashioned is what they say. But I think there's even an older fashion, and the older fashion is, look, man, I just want to teach, and I want learners to learn. That's it. But what I'm telling you is, if that kid is going to learn, that kid has to feel safe and secure and loved. If he doesn't have that, well, we need to provide that so that we can teach and so that he can learn. Yeah, some kids get that at home. The ones I taught, most of them did not.
We felt like the last couple of years when I was at Magnolia High School that the kids needed to know 3 things. And if they didn't know these 3 things, and we really felt like we're talking about every single kid in the high school, and a high school campus, not elementary, not middle school, but a high school campus, that they needed to know these 3 things if we were going to move from excellence to eminence. And that was that every single kid that walked into the building was valuable. And that every single kid felt like they were complete. In other words, they were good enough. They had what it takes. They had the potential. They had all the tools that, it was just up to us to plug them in, to remind them of their completeness.
Flip the light on so they could see it.
Yes. And it didn't not complete in the fact that they were done, but complete in the fact that they have everything right there in front of them. And it was up to us to help them see that. And then the last thing was that they were loved, so that they were valuable, they were complete, and they were loved. And for high school campus and for high school kids to, sometimes we think they don't want to hear those things, but they absolutely do. And once they buy into that kind of thing, it's amazing what you can do. Now you can teach. Now you can teach.
Right.
And now you can do those other things because of the relationship, the atmosphere, the culture that you build on the campus. Because the goal was that kids wanted to be there. I mean, and a lot of times kids want to be anywhere but there in a high school setting.
Yep. It's interesting. You know, at Cy Springs, where I finished up my career, some of the most challenging personalities that we had in the school, the most challenging kids, are the ones that we're trying to kick out of the commons at 4:30 to go home. Because they want to sit in there and play dominoes and hang out. But it's interesting. They would talk about how much they hated school, didn't want to be here all day long. But look, when they have the opportunity to do anything, what are they doing? They're sitting in the commons with their friends playing dominoes.
Yep.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
And you know that whole man the VCL movement, which is really what it was. How many years did you harp on that? How many years did it take to really sink that in?
You know, I was there 14 years. We threw in the hashtag and hashtag VCL, and it became kind of a unifying. It started, I mean, we even had, I mean, it was on T-shirts, it was on wristbands. It still is when I hear from kids, VCL always. Yeah. You know, it's still kind of a legacy.
Years later, it's still using the hashtag.
Absolutely. And, we also did hashtag 6 words, I love you, I need you, that kind of thing. Kids know, they just have to have something that makes them all common, and that's the one place or the one thing that no matter where we came from, that we were unified in that we shared that. Even if you and I have a difference, we go to the same school and we both know 3 things: that we're valuable, complete, and loved. And I think that really made a difference. And it took a couple years to do that. And really the last 4 or 5 years that I was at Magnolia High School, we kind of saw that taken, of course, for social media and taking advantage of those kind of opportunities with, through Twitter and Instagram and so forth and Facebook, tagging on that. I mean, it keeps it alive,
sure, and
moves it forward.
I think people really underestimate the power of when you get all those kids on board. I can remember seeing, I'm pretty sure, I mean, I might have this wrong in my memory. It looked like maybe it was a pep rally and all the kids had different color shirts on, like VCL shirts.
Yeah. We, each class had a different color. So we'd have their year in VCL on the sleeve or every year it was a different design. Yeah. And, so we would have at pep rallies, we would challenge the different classes to wear their class color shirt. But what was in common, obviously, other than the fact that they all went to the Magnolia High School, was that they wore a shirt that said VCL on it.
Right. And then, man, I remember a story, and I'm not sure if a kid told me this or a teacher, but wasn't there somebody running for school board or something that said, no, I'm sure they can't, no one feels that way over there or something like that. That didn't turn out well for him or her, did it?
No, it didn't. and I didn't even have to carry the banner, right? Because the kids took it. And her question was, how do you really expect me to believe that at a high school that kids feel like they were valuable, complete, and loved? And it just was that was probably the greatest thing that happened for us, man.
She lit the fire.
She was the unifying force.
And maybe in her defense, maybe she had a bad high school experience. Right. She was just reflecting on that. Right. And I didn't feel that way. I'm sure there's other people. How could anyone believe that? But the kids went crazy.
Well, you have to be. It has to be. You can't just do those things without being authentic. And so you kids just, it wasn't a flip of a switch. We already had this, a foundation of that. And so anybody outside that circle or that family would question,
sure,
come on, really? In a high school, public education?
That many kids, come on.
High school, and you're telling those kids, and you guys really say that? And, it would be poo-pooed and so forth. But so you're right. You could see how someone on the outside would, because that's sometimes the way our world is to criticize things that maybe are against the norm, but yet is really, really needed, so anyway.
And, I love that the kids took the initiative because, like looking back, that's kind of how I always judged our family and how we were doing together as a class is when I'd be, at the end, I was on the road speaking a lot and, I'd say, all right, we're going to have a sub. Those sub notes, that's how I knew where we really were. Because we could all play fun and have, hug at the classroom door and high five for days and, be sweet to each other in here. But what really happens is when, the cat's away and what are the mice going to do? And it was devastating. Like if I came back and it was, oh my God, these kids were rude and they were pretending we were different people and they sat in different seats. I couldn't tell whose name was whose. Oh my, broke my heart. Like, what do we do? But that's how like, oh my God, this class was amazing. They took charge and I didn't have to do anything. They knew exactly what to do. That's what I love about your kids taking, control of that situation. Now it's for real.
Well, if you can build that pride in a campus and in their school as well, and that becomes kind of a battle cry, and they hear it enough, and they believe it.
Yeah.
So again, as a principal and hopefully as a teacher in a building like that, that's what you want. It just makes everybody's life easier and more pleasant, and there's time to, more time to play.
Mm-hmm. The thing is also, in addition to that, I think when those kids come around, they really feel a part of something. There's a theme that is driven home, becomes part of the culture, like, the VCL, but also, in my experience, is the kids are crystal clear about their teachers, like why they're there, what we're talking about, why these kids, why this school, why am I teaching here? Why do I teach this class? They know the answer. They know their teacher's answer to that. And they also understand what they really want for their kids. Like the teachers are talking to them about that. And, as we start this back to school stuff, I see, especially online and forums and different leadership groups on Facebook or whatever, like what should I do with my teachers, like what kind of back to school stuff. And look, all their ideas are amazing, but it really has to be like every year, rebuild the foundation of what do you really want for your kids? Mm-hmm. Like 40 years from now, your kids are going to be sitting at the reunion talking about you. Like, what's that conversation? What do you want that to be? And then upon that foundation, we can build, instructional strategies and the new technology and all that stuff. But, for me, those are the main questions to get focused on as teachers come back to the building.
Mm. Yeah, the theme, I always enjoyed creating a theme for the new year.
Enjoyed it. That was that's your lifeblood, man.
But it was. And I think that's kind of like what you're talking about. A lot of these administrative posts and so forth, conversations you see online are geared towards it excites me that I think more building principals and administrators are thinking that way.
Yep.
I mean, it's now the norm. It used to be not.
Right.
But I mean, elementary principals and teachers have always been good at that kind of stuff, but secondary, not so good. They were really just almost. Just the facts, just
data and scores,
just the operational type things, but not the, not the nurturing, not the, the big picture, not the creativity, innovative type. And I see that now, across the board
more than ever.
But it has to be, again, it has to be part of your culture and who you are. You can't make it up.
Yeah.
It has to be real. So how do you establish that? And I think part of that is longevity. And then also talking about, the beyond the 1 year goals, 1 to 3 year, 1 to 5 year, and then even 10 year.
Yeah.
So people, not only teachers, but community members know that you're here and you're building something. It's not just a revival thing.
Right.
And so how do you perpetuate that all year long? One of the reasons why we brought you in that 1 year was that I didn't want to just, 1 hour here, 2 hours there, and then school starts and schedule starts and we forget all the great professional development we had at the beginning, all front loaded. It needs to be professional development needs to be, standing in the hallways in between the classroom, talking about informally about how excited we are about our next lesson and, those kind of things.
Right.
And building relationships with kids on a daily basis. And I think the authenticity is the key to anything that you do. Be who you are.
Right. And I think also as a leader, just to show what that looks like, we always talk about, people have to see it if they're going to be it. I have to show it if I'm going to grow it in those students or in those teachers. And, especially in Texas, we do front load it, man. People in other states don't do this. Most of the states that I go to, they have 2 days before the kids come. They have one day they show up and do some sort of thing for the whole district for a couple hours. Then they go to their schools, and then they have one day to get the classrooms ready, and the kids show up. And sometimes when they're in a union, they can't even go on campus until those 2 days. They can't do anything. But in Texas, a lot of these just have 2 weeks.
Yeah.
You talk about front loading. And what happens is we everybody's fired up. We have new ideas, and we have tons of time in the classroom, and teams are meeting, and there's district-wide English and district-wide third grade, and we have this district-wide technology, and everything's going on. And then the kid shows up, and Monday is awesome. And then Wednesday, some kid gives that teacher the finger, and it all comes crashing down. And now what? Yeah. But for me, it really is those hallway meetings for 30 seconds where 4 teachers come together for 30 seconds and just talk about what's amazing in their classroom today and tell a story about a kid that did a great job, and setting the tone for your lunch bunch, setting your tone. I remember, going into the teacher workroom and somebody yelling out, "Man, we need to change the toner." And I'm thinking, right, we need to change the tone in here. Yeah, we need to change.
Got that right.
Right, we sure do. Right, and really, I always say the person responsible for school culture is you. Like individually, it's your job. And people think, well, how does it? That's the way it works. Like, as we all take responsibility for culture. That's it. And but man, it's the everyday conversation, casual conversation that determines professional development.
Yeah. Well, you know that I'm huge on acronyms.
Yep.
And so, if I was talking to a group of principals right now, I would say, that they need to do 4 things throughout the year to create that environment where it's a day to these are things that they need to do every day. And it's an acronym for play. And the first one is, who are their people? Even a principal needs to surround themselves with some people that they trust and that they can have those conversations with on a regular basis. If it's another principal in another building or another district, but it's good to have who are your people, and surround yourself with those people that are going to support you, care about your journey, and care about your soul, and want you to be successful. I think that's really important. The second thing is love. So how do you love? How do you if you're not touchy-feely, how are you going to communicate to your staff and your students that you care? Who loves you? Who do you love? And, those kind of questions. And then the third thing really is interesting to me is acknowledge. Sometimes we have to acknowledge where we fall short. And because if we don't develop a plan to correct it.
Right.
If we just keep going, doing the same thing from one year. Again, we talked about that. The beauty of school is we get to restart. And really you talked about halftime and those kind of things, but really there's several restarts.
Yep.
Of course, every day is a restart. But in education, on the calendar, we have built-in restarts every 6 weeks, every 9 weeks, whatever you're on is an opportunity for restart. So a constant reflection or acknowledgement of what worked and what didn't work. And then also that last part is why, is yearn. What's your passion? What do you yearn for? What is it that gets you out of bed in the morning? What excites you about your job? And that's kind of that question we ask teachers: why do you teach? As a reflective, or remember what got you into teaching to begin with. And sometimes we get in our 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th year, and we haven't answered that question and it's good to stop and say, okay, remember what I was going to do when I got into teaching? Maybe I need to get back to some of those things. That passion, those strength areas that keeps you engaged in what you do on a regular basis. So people love, acknowledge, yearn, play.
And for me, like the very best principals that are doing those things, they do it publicly. Like they talk about yearning and the acknowledging, whether it's acknowledging people or acknowledging their shortcomings or what they're working on, but they're talking about it openly and publicly. Here's what I'm working on. Here's the book I'm reading. Here's my focus. And the same in every one of those, the PLA and Y, the people that love acknowledgement and the yearn, they're openly articulating all that for everybody to see, because that's what makes it real.
Transparency.
And they love it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I can't tell you how many times I've sat down with a school leader and they tell me, here's the challenge I'm having, and they're going on and on and on. I'm not sure what to do. And the whole time I'm thinking, you should be on a microphone in front of your entire staff saying exactly those words right now. That's what you should be doing.
Yep. And if you're asking them to do it, you can model that in your staff meetings.
Yeah.
I mean, if you want them to set goals, share yours.
Yeah.
Accountability is huge.
Just thinking about meetings I've been in where there's like the instructional leader of the school sitting up there droning on about needing more collaborative learning and want to see more engaged students. And I'm thinking, what are you doing?
Yeah.
As they're all sitting there looking at them.
Sage on the stage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Don't do as I say.
Right. But who's fantastic? But then like we went to Polly Ryan, I just was texting with Heather Patterson, the principal there. Oh my gosh. You wouldn't believe her plans for her back to school teacher meetings. Because if you think about it, what she had, her expectations that she sets for teachers for those classroom transformation days and magic days and pep rallies and all that stuff. Well, if that's really going to happen, I need to show them what that looks like when they come back. So she's got a theme for every day. There's something new. There's something crazy, something big, something over the top, because that now has earned her the right to ask that of her teachers.
Yeah. Being on her campus just one morning, I can fully visualize that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just, again, that's that, the modeling nothing better than modeling. And like you said, I can't tell you how many times I've been in an instructional meeting setting, and we talk about doing those things, but we don't practice doing those things. So, I mean, that's why I think sometimes football coaches or any coach are some of the best teachers in the world.
They really are.
Coaches sometimes are knocked because they, maybe they're so passionate about what they do outside the classroom. But many of those are the best teachers as well. And they take some of the same aspects of actually, communicating and actually doing and actually practicing. I mean, we go to practice. We don't go to class at football after school. We go to practice. And they call it practice for a reason.
Yeah.
And, so I think if you took some of those elements and brought them into the classroom and remembered, I used to try to teach the same lesson differently. You have 4 or 5 periods during the day. I mean, you can't teach it. For myself, I can't teach it the same way 5 times. I mean, I was bored myself teaching the same.
Sure.
And during the day, your first period is so different than your fourth period. Because of time of day.
Just the personalities, and then you mix in pre or post lunch.
I mean, Daniel Pink, have you read his book, When?
Yeah.
Talks about timing. And so that sheds light on, how you even approach a lesson based on, the time of day and creativity and so forth. So I think those are all things that we need to be aware of.
Those to think about. I think in Texas, coaches get a lot of heat sometimes just simply because of the pressure that's, and the money that's spent on football and things like that. But here's the deal, man. When your job depends on wins and losses, which it really does, You're not going to last as a high school football coach if you're losing more than you're winning. It's just not going to happen. Then that changes everything about how you teach, because it really does. It's amazing. And I always say, can you imagine putting 16-year-old kids in the middle of a stadium to take a math test with people screaming at them, screaming at your teacher, "You suck! That kid's terrible! Take him out!" And then have the kid try to pass a test. Could you imagine?
Oh, it's crazy.
Yeah.
I just it gives a whole new level of respect for the livelihood that the life of a coach and the livelihood and what depends on their their Friday night results.
Yeah.
If every Monday morning our classroom results were posted in the newspaper, or Saturday from the week, I think that would maybe draw a little bit more respect for what coaches do.
Yep.
On the field, but
they just have a different mentality.
Yeah,
I remember, man, when I first became a teacher, is my first year teaching. I was a band director, and we worked real hard, and we were marching contest, and we qualified for regional marching contest. First year teacher, no assistant, no nothing, and then grades came out, and I had 9 kids fail, which isn't a lot if you're at a 5A school. It was at a 1A school. And so that was like 25% of my band. Right. So I said, all right, well, I guess that's that, what are you going to do? Right. And then, and so I'm in the band hall, and there's a knock at the door, and open it up, and it's Peggy Schwartz, and she was volleyball coach. She was every coach, on the women's side. Her husband was athletic director, big Sammy Schwartz, and she opened the door. She's sitting there staring at me, and she goes, "What the hell are you thinking?" I go, "What?" She goes, "I heard you're not going to go to regional contest." I said, "No, I had like half my band failed, man, like 9 kids." And she goes, this is the first time those kids will have ever gone to that contest. We're going. And she goes, well, "When's the rehearsal?" And I'm like, "We canceled it. You need to get it back on the calendar." So it was like the next day or something. And so I had scheduled rehearsal because she told me to. I didn't know. She's yelling at me. And she shows up with 9 volleyball players. These are your new band students.
Wow.
And she goes, "Give an instrument." And I said, "Well, I don't have mouthpieces." "They're not going to play. They don't need mouthpieces." And she's out there teaching them, point the horn that way, act like you wiggle your fingers, do what they do, get in line. And within a week, we taught them the show. Well, she taught them the show.
Wow.
Yeah. And then it changes, oh my, I didn't even know that was possible. And you can't do better until you know better. I didn't know any better. I thought that'd be band kids. Apparently not. They just had to be good kids just with a good teacher. And she showed up on that day. Changed everything about what's possible, about kind of what this thing's really about. Why are you going to penalize the rest of those kids because 9 kids failed?
Well, again, those are the best kind of teachers or coaches, whatever. I mean, all to me they're the same, synonymous. That carry such a belief in you.
Yeah.
That make you believe that you can do it, even if you don't think you can. I struggled with math, always did. I don't know if I ever had a math teacher that made me feel like I was smart enough to do math. And I think if I had that math teacher that stayed with me and coached me, maybe things would have been different.
Yeah.
And I think that's the secret. I think you can teach a lot of this other stuff, the academic part of it, but some of that just has to be want to, on the teacher's side of it, and how incredible that story is that you have that coach came in, it made a difference in the lives, of the kids that did pass, that would have missed out on that opportunity. And so she made that happen.
And we did really well. We came in 3rd, which we were alternate for state. So it's a huge accomplishment, man. All with 9 tall volleyball girls that couldn't play a note.
I remember when I coached at Hempstead, we were 3A, but we were a small 3A, and the whole trombone section was football players. And so at halftime, I never saw them at halftime, because they played in the band. And so they would wear their football pants, take their shoulder pads off.
Yep.
I have one of my favorite pictures is of my 3 football players that were marching in the band with their trombone.
Yep, that's what it works. I mean, at one I had less than half the kids in a band uniform. Cheerleaders, football players, snack bar workers, everybody climbing over the counter, putting down a hot dog, grab your trombone, let's do this. But it's awesome.
Yeah.
That's what I love about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just amazing, man. I love, here's the thing about the whole coaching deal is what they truly are really good at is understanding the psychology, like understanding the psychology of how that kid needs to feel emotionally in order for them to play at their very best, which is the same thing in the classroom. When the kid comes through the door, what am I doing so I can get this kid in the prime emotional state for this kid to learn and perform at his best today?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think that, unfortunately, some of the other aspects of the teaching profession has, sometimes I think that might be the intentionality of a teacher, but unless that teacher feels like they can be creative and have a way to balance all those other responsibilities that are handed down. I mean, teaching today is such a hard profession. It has gotten harder with more expectations that with standardized testing and then all the other roles that a teacher plays.
Yeah.
Again, I think that has to be set up not only for kids, it has to be set up for our teachers to feel like they can and reminded that they make a difference.
Right.
That what they do makes a difference. And when they get bogged down and all that other stuff, sometimes it takes someone else outside the classroom
Sure.
to remind them of that.
I always ask when I'll talk to school leaders and they say, well, here's what I want my teachers doing. I want them greeting the kids at the door, getting them in that emotional state. And they're going on and on how they want to open class and open the lesson and the launch and the whole bit, and which is great. But my question always is, how are you modeling that for your teachers as they're walking into the building in the morning? Like, who is that? Who is there at the teacher workroom where they're all coming in to make a copy, to get a coffee, or to check their box? Who's there greeting teachers? Because if there's not someone, we really can't expect it.
Yeah.
We can ask it. The odds of it happening pretty slim.
Yeah, it's true. So true.
When what I'm about to do in the next 4 weeks, I'll go to all these convocations, and people always get confused because what I'll find out there are those schools that never talk about scores. They never talk about the data. The superintendent doesn't say a word about any of that. Those are the ones that are absolutely killing it in terms of data and scores. And people think, well, they don't have to talk about it because they're killing it. It's really opposite. The reason they're killing it is because he's not focusing or she's not focusing on that at the beginning of the year. Oftentimes I'll go. And some of these smaller districts where it's like a one high school, one junior high, one or two elementaries, they put up school. They have I've seen in a convocation, I've seen teachers' names on and it shows, well, here's our 4 fifth grade teachers and here's how their classes did. And there's numbers up there. And you can see that one 5th grade teacher, she's slouching in her chair. Oh my God. So sad.
Yeah.
Like, who's fired up for that?
Yeah. It is remarkable that those schools that don't front and center their standardized scores and those kind of things, it reminds me of a former coach who said, just do your best, don't sweat the rest. Winning will take care of itself. So you just do your best and you create an opportunity where teachers can be their best. And they're going to be. Teachers want to be their best. I don't know. Even the worst teacher wants to be their best.
Yeah.
And but you have to create that opportunity for teachers to have that opportunity to walk into that classroom knowing that they have the support and the culture, behind them, that they can take risks and they can be creative and innovative and just do your best. And so that permeates in the classroom, and the rest of it's going to take care of itself. I mean, I'm so with you. I was with a superintendent of a fairly large area school district that has that philosophy where they're going to look at the scores and they're going to see where they're at, but that's not their focus.
No.
And if and he even made the statement that if it ever comes to that, then he's in the wrong district. So I just thought that speaks volumes that gives freedom to the teachers we've got to do this. There are some non-negotiables, but how we get there is our template.
With social media and all now, I love when I see those superintendents making videos for their teachers. Let's remember what the school year is about. I know you feel the pressure, but instead of that pressure, let's talk about the pressure of making an impact on this kid's life that they'll never forget. Let's talk about that, and to see those teachers comment underneath, like talking about, "Oh my gosh, I'm in tears. Thank you so much. I needed that." Changes everything.
Yeah.
And how much better is that teacher going to teach now? That's the crazy part, because when they focus on the data and the scores and the numbers and all that stuff, now we have a job. Now we're in the grind. Mm-hmm. And when a superintendent posts something like that and talking about the impact that we're making on a kid's life that's going to last forever, now a teacher can live up to their passion. And the crazy part is a passionate teacher is going to outwork a grinding teacher every time, because the grinder is going to burn out. The passionate one will never burn out. So I think it's kind of the jobs is to fuel that fire. And then on the campus level, man, here's what I love. Like when I work with, kind of a leadership team, and I'll ask teachers around school, it's fascinating. I'll ask teachers, especially if it's a large high school, they might have 4 or 5, 6 assistant principals, an associate, a building principal, there's a counselor. I'll ask teachers around school, hey, who's the administrator on that team that is here for teachers and do whatever it takes to make your life easier so you can teach it? They all come up with the same name. Like they know who that is. Oh, she is amazing. Anything I'm not even getting observed by her this year, but she always stops by and waves, asks me if I need anything. She saw a light bulb was out in my room, came back, she was on a chair chain, there's a light bulb. Like little things like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think it's that combination, man, of having, a district-wide philosophy that is being really articulated well by the superintendent, along with those people on campus that are committed to doing whatever it takes for you as an educator to teach kids.
Yeah, as a high school principal, I felt like probably my number one job was to be the campus cheerleader and to celebrate our teachers and our kids, and like that recognition that you talked about, that acknowledgement. And, again, doing that through social media, but also more importantly, publicly and personally.
Yeah.
And being present, all of those things, just being, sticking your head in the door of the classroom and being at all the events and, again, celebrating the accomplishments and the efforts, and the dedication and recognizing the commitment of the teachers and all the hard work and dedication that they've put in to bring us to this point. And, administrators and campuses leadership a lot of times get a lot of the accolades when school ratings come out, or some type of accomplishment is awarded to a building or a district, but it is the teachers that make it happen. And all the accomplishments that we made at Magnolia High School was because of an amazing collection of professional and caring staff members.
Yep.
And how you are able to best communicate that sentiment to your teachers is so key in order for them to, as you say, be free to be who they are in a classroom.
Yeah.
So ultimately our kids benefit. So,
I remember the first time we talked, and you'd recently won the Principal of the Year, did that thing, and I still remember I said, man, what was that like receiving that award? And I'll never forget, you said, well, I got up on the podium, and before I said anything, the thought occurred to me, man, I'm not even the best principal on my campus, let alone in this room.
Absolutely true. There is a God, because I was Principal of the Year.
Right.
I mean, you know, that goes back to people, that first part of play.
Yeah.
Who are your people and who you surround yourself? And I have had many amazing mentors in my life. And before I became a principal, I had the availability of countless professionals who poured it into my life and my career.
Yeah.
And I wanted to be always that same person, and to those that I led and celebrated. So yeah, it's anytime a person wins an individual award, it's a reflection of the team.
Sure.
So the question is, how well are you acknowledging and recognizing your team?
Yeah. But I think even more than that, man, I think I think it's important not to underplay the ability you had to spot great talent.
Mm.
And then also being self-aware what you needed, because like being aware of where wasn't your strength or something you didn't like to do. Typically, that's the area of weakness. Like I don't like to do it, so I'm weak at it, or I'm weak at it because I don't like to do it. But there's people that love that stuff.
Mm.
Being self-aware to know. So I think maybe self-awareness and also spotting great talent. I had a friend who he told me when he hires, he said there's a neon sign that appears above someone's head with a flashing fluorescent neon green arrow that says, this is one of us. This is one. And he goes, if I don't see that sign, they're not. Like if I have the idea, man, I bet they'd be pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what you were able to do is fill that school with so many great people doing amazing stuff for kids. And like, that's a huge part of leadership.
Well, and like Stephen Covey used to say, you got to take care of the goose that lays the golden eggs. And, that's a daily basis. And just, again, figuring out ways to communicate your gratitude.
Yeah. Yeah. That's huge.
Mm.
I think one of the things we always talked about in one of the classes I taught, my leadership class for kids, was, we can't bring more into our lives until we're grateful and we appreciate whatever it is that we have now. Even if it's really hard and not anything like you wish it was. Mm. The moment we're grateful for what little we have right now, that's what we can bring more into our lives.
Yeah, one of the last years I was there, we gave bracelets to every kid on campus. Of course, a hashtag green, and they were green, like these lime green bracelets that said green with gratitude. And Magnolia High School is green with gratitude. And so I was the attitude of gratitude.
Right.
I wanted that to be across the campus. And like you said, it's hard to not be happy, or feel like you're not contributing when you're grateful.
Yeah.
And to take a pause and take a look at all the amazing things that we have in front of us, and to be grateful. And so that was definitely, that was kind of our word, that we kind of pointed towards our standing operating procedure for that school year as another layer to that foundation.
Right. And I think people get caught up sometimes in the big picture stuff, like, oh my gosh, how do I mean, how we creating a culture of gratitude. That's the giant umbrella over it. But what it is, man, it's the tiny, simple little things that make it happen. Just even like using that team leadership model, where we take 60 seconds before class starts. Not even 60 seconds. Sometimes with 40 seconds of going around the classroom, every kid talking about something cool, something fun that's happened in their life, and within the last 23 hours that we've seen each other. Mm-hmm. And it's really hard at first because they can't think of anything, because it's not a natural thing to do. Like, it's the natural thing is to think about what sucks in your life. But when they get in the habit and they learn after a couple of weeks and they realize, having frozen yogurt is an amazing thing, man. That's cheer worthy. We're going to cheer. That's awesome. Or, just whatever, having a conversation with their mom or whatever they go around. Those little things, it took us 40 seconds to start that class, but really what we did is we added one brick into the foundation of gratitude that we're trying to build campus-wide. It's the tiny things.
Yep.
Yeah. All right, brother. Over an hour. It's good stuff. How's it feel, man? The single returning guest.
I'm just honored.
Yeah, you are.
I'm honored.
Hey, man, since you've repurposed, you left you've left the building as the principal, and you're going to finish your doctorate, and you've been working with schools and doing consulting on leadership. And if somebody wanted to chat with you, if they're having some struggles, you'd be willing to get on the phone and brainstorm with them.
Absolutely.
And help them out, because that's the cool thing about your gig. You've done it for 3.5 decades. Your principal, a lot of experiences, good and bad.
Cultivating playful entrepreneurs. That's what I want to do.
Yeah.
I just want to, help. I'd love to have conversation. It gives me opportunity to get back on campuses and see what's happening. And, I love leadership. I love transformational leadership. I love talking to young administrators and teachers that have this passion and a heart for what they're doing. And, the fact that they are change agents, where they're at. And, really just, being a coach and, having those conversations, those professional conversations, and shared visioning and that kind of thing.
Hey, last thing, isn't it shocking? This is the part that freaks me out, because I'm going to go to some campuses and districts I've been out before. Isn't it shocking the immediate and dramatic change that one person can have coming to a new campus that has studied and prepared themselves for leadership and just really gets it and understands it, and they have a proven track record. That's what, like, I don't follow teams. Like, I know you like certain teams. I like certain coaches, and I'll follow that coach wherever they go, just because I know this is going to be a great program. I guarantee it.
Oh, I'm the same way. Matter of fact, I end up adopting teams if I like the coach. You switch teams,
yep.
or a player, or maybe they say something, on social media or something like that I go, wow, I am now a fan,
right?
Of this guy. And
I never thought about Oklahoma State until I saw Gundy go crazy for, where he yells at
I'm
me.
a man.
Yeah,
Pick
on me. He's a boy. I'm a man. Pick on me. Him and his mullet.
Yeah.
I became a fan that day.
Yeah.
Now I have to watch.
But, there's a guy that could have gone multiple places, and yet he has decided to stay in a campus, and has made a difference.
Yep.
I mean, longevity.
Yeah.
And legacy. So, want to create legacy. You do that. Be the one. What is your legacy? What do you want? What is it that you want to leave behind?
Yeah.
When you move. That's
a huge thing, whether we're talking about teachers, but even today, I want to head up to Dallas area, and tomorrow we're going to talk with high school seniors that are going to go into freshman classes every day, freshman homeroom, and do mentoring and games and all kinds of, and that will be the focus of our conversation is at what are you leaving behind? These people's lives will be changed because of you visiting that classroom. What is it that you want them to talk about? Their sophomore year, junior, senior, when they're 30, the way they run their families when they're 35 will be impacted by the work that you do your senior year with a freshman class.
Yep.
It's powerful.
Helping adults helping kids not minimize the things that they do today on affecting future
Yeah.
is so key. I mean, I think that was one of my, again, going back to my principalship, I think one of the things that it was really heavy on my heart was communicating to teachers and students, a lot of times seniors, how do they want to be remembered, and what you do today matters.
Yeah. So true. Forever.
Yep.
All right, brother. I appreciate doing it.
Hey, thanks.
You're amazing. I love you.
Love you.
All right.